Good morning and welcome to beautiful downtown Madison here on Capitol Square. My name is Laura Ingersoll. I'm with the marketing department at the Wisconsin Historical Foundation. And I am here coming to you live this morning from the Wisconsin Historical Museum, where we are going to go on a trip back in time. You heard me, to the 1960s to be exact. And if you were around during that era, you may remember some bright, shiny objects lighting up living rooms across America. And in fact, you might still have one in your possession. And if you do, boy, are you lucky, because these things, they're a hot commodity on the resale market these days. So it's trees, evergreen trees. They may not look like they have roots, but they actually have roots, deep Wisconsin roots. And that is why the Wisconsin Historical Museum has been collecting so many unique versions over the years, so that we can bring them to you here annually through our Ever Gleaming exhibit, which happens to open tomorrow, Saturday, November 13th, and we hope to see you here. Now, I could sit here and tell you how much fun I have coming to this exhibit every year, but we definitely should hear from an expert this morning. So this morning with me, I have Joe Kapler, and Joe is our lead curator and curator of cultural history at the Wisconsin Historical Society. Good morning, Joe.
Good morning, Laura.
How are you doing today?
I'm doing well, thank you.
Awesome. So now, if you have questions for Joe, feel free to throw them in the comments, and we'll make sure we get to those questions later. But for now, we're going to start with a question about the name. So here at the museum, we have Ever Gleaming exhibit with our evergleam trees. So tell me, what's so important about the name and the unique historical background?
Sure. The name Evergleam is actually the brand name that a Wisconsin company, the aluminum specialty company of Manitowoc, Wisconsin, they gave their aluminum Christmas tree. They gave it that in 1960, a year after they introduced them to America in 1959. And that brand name, Evergleam, kind of became like Kleenex, when you think of it, for facial tissue. Aluminum Specialties Evergleam tree was the vast majority of all Christmas trees made and sold during the 1960s and into the early 1970s. And so people often refer to it Evergleam. It might be an Acme tree made in Pennsylvania. That's how popular these particular Wisconsin trees were. And so we have branded the name of this exhibition, as mentioned to you, every year by popular demand, Ever Gleaming. This story is continuing. Not only is the story continuing, it keeps growing. The trees were introduced in 1959, and they were stopped selling early 70s, say 71, 72. So 12, maybe 13 years. In 2005 was our first year of doing an exhibition, photo book produced by some photographer artists in Manitowoc. Relaunched the interest in aluminum Christmas trees about that time, 2005. So here we are, 16 years later, and our exhibit keeps getting bigger. We have more renewed interest and popular demand every year, and there's new exhibits popping up around the state, even around the country. The story is getting bigger. It's ever gleaming.
That's amazing and just so fascinating. So you mentioned the exhibit gets bigger every year. So let's take a spin around. Let's talk a little bit about how many trees do we have on display here this year, and how many trees does the society have in our collection overall?
So this year's version of the exhibition, we switch it up every year. We have so many returning enthusiasts. So this year's version has 18 trees from the Society's collection, as well as some wonderful trees unknown to the Historical Society as well. And then the Society has over about 30 vintage aluminum evergreen Christmas trees, as well as some of their really cool accessories, the color light wheels and the rotating stands. So that's a pretty sizable collection. And you see some of them here in our forest.
The forest of trees. I would love to have something like that in my own living room, but, well, okay, so I know that you probably aren't supposed to be biased as a curator of history, but you've got to have a favorite. Which is your favorite tree this year?
I do, and we all know that the vast majority of the trees that Specialty made and sold were silver. Different style, different forms, different branch types, different sizes, but they also did some colored trees as well. Okay. So let's take a look at one really amazing tree.
Awesome. Oh my goodness, look at how beautiful this is. Wow.
This is a blue-green aluminum Christmas tree, the tinted aluminum, just the particular colors and the way the light bounces off of each other. Just for whatever reason, that I'm drawn to that. I think a lot of people are. It's one of the first trees you're going to encounter when you come to the exhibition at the museum on Capitol Square, and it's there for a reason. It's something about its its visual appearance, and that matters in exhibitions. It's both warm and kind of nostalgic, yet it's also cool, aluminum, space agey.
Awesome. Well, I certainly noticed that one right when I came in. It was absolutely stunning. So, all right, listeners, every year the exhibition here at the Historical Museum takes a little bit of a different spin to keep it fresh and new. So, Joe, let's talk. This year, when people who have been here a million times come back to see the exhibit, what's going to be really different? What's the unique spin this year?
Yeah, it's something different for returnees, but it's also something that's asked about all the time in my presentations or online. And that is, what do we mean when we say space age? Oh, what's that all about?
Sure.
So we've taken that on this year.
Yeah, look at this.
So you think of space age, you generally think of the mid-50s up until, say, when we landed on the moon in 1969. So space age, the roots of that was the space race between the United States and the former Soviet Union. Who could get a person to, to orbit the Earth, eventually to the moon? Who could kind of reach space first? And it's an enormous effort in the Cold War era, and it dominated everything, including popular culture and even design. So it influenced things like architecture and marketing and advertising and products. So this chafing dish here looks like a saucer. And you look at one of the Evergleam accessories over here, they're Sectolite, as they branded that item over there. Another color spinning wheel. And so these are vintage artifacts from the time that show this pervasive influence of product design. So these incredible new machines, aerodynamic, metal, sleek, or kind of bizarre shape, captivated people's attention. And so products, furniture, buildings, signage, pots and pans, flashlights, banks, the coin banks.
Oh, sure.
Adopt these forms and materials because consumers gave them a chance to be part of the grand adventure as well. And certainly the marketing of it as well. So just a few examples of some pretty stretched marketing here to tie their products into the space age. And this is just kind of evidence of just how pervasive it was in the 1960s. So some really cool pieces.
Yeah.
What is the
helmet? Tell me about this helmet.
So this, of course, is the Satellite Explorer helmet from 1956. And it was made by the other massive aluminum goods company in Manitowoc. So we had Aluminum Specialty Company who made the Evergleam. They had been around since 1909. Well, this other company eventually became known as Miro. I think we all think of Miro as pots and pans.
Oh, sure.
They were also started in the early 1900s. They were at one time the world's biggest maker of aluminum goods.
Oh, wow.
But both of these companies made pots and pans by the millions for Americans coast to coast. And they also made aluminum toys and decorations and holiday decorations. So they've been doing that for decades. So that's why Manitowoc. Why aluminum Christmas trees out of Manitowoc? That's why. Well, this one, we've been looking for one of these for years. So this Satellite Explorer helmet, you can see the advertisement there, what it looked like with this antenna on. So you focus there on the dents on top. So we don't know the history of this particular one. We don't know what we call the provenance, but you can probably deduce a few things by looking at it. So I guarantee you the parents who first gave this to one of their kids Christmas morning, it's being opened under the tree, 30 seconds later, they had realized they had made a terrible mistake. Like, what in the world made those dents on that helmet? And this, I think, we've been looking for these for years, so finally able to find one. That just brings back nostalgic memories of I can just see the kids doing their crazy, moon landings out in the backyard wearing one of these things.
Oh my goodness, what a fun story. I can't even imagine giving my children one of those. So, all right, you come to the museum, you're going to see evergreen trees, you're going to learn about space age, and what else can you do when you come visit this exhibit this year?
So we're also right by our theater here, and here we have a 7-minute loop of TV commercials from the period where they're using the space age language and marketing, and it's just a trip.
Yeah.
It's a literal trip back in time, but it's also, it's some of it from today's perspective is kind of laugh out loud funny, but again, it's a window into how pervasive space age, space race permeated kind of daily life and marketing, and they're just kind of a lot of fun as well.
Yeah.
If you look around, we have many dozens of artifacts in this year's show, also from the period, putting aluminum Christmas trees in this context of American consumerism, consumer demand, product design. So there's a lot of those to accompany the 18 trees that are in the show.
Very cool.
Yeah.
So it sounds like you don't have to celebrate Christmas necessarily to come and enjoy this exhibit.
That's correct. It's about a holiday season for sure, and it's also that for this year we're really looking into the 1960s decade.
Okay.
So it's a great scene setting.
Yeah. So let's talk about the scene setting, and should we go actually have a seat in our scene?
Sure.
All right. So what would people come and do right here where we started our show this morning?
So in the exhibition, we're always going to have vintage, authentic aluminum Christmas trees, and we have them in bulk, and we have the real specialty trees inside those cases that are beautifully lit. We always have some type of AV, some audio visual that people can take in, including on our period 1960s television there. How great is that?
So cool.
And then this where we're sitting right now, our 1960s living room with authentic, vintage furnishings. Look at that. Remember those floor to ceiling, front window? Kept the cool, cold winter air out. This is just, people are drawn to this. This is a place to sit down. It is a tremendous photo opportunity. And people, individuals, families, groups, work groups, friends groups come here dressed up for their holiday card photo, maybe for this year, maybe for online, maybe for next year. It's a very popular feature to the show. And for a lot of people, it's kind of the decor experience. And it's a chance to really it's a different way to access a different time period.
That's awesome. Well, great. So you've shared so much wonderful information about this exhibit. When can people actually come? I think the hours are a little bit different this year.
So it opens tomorrow, Saturday, November 13th. And then through the rest of November, it's going to be Thursday through Saturday from 11 a.m. to 3 p.m.
Okay.
And then check our website for special December holiday hours.
That's awesome. And how much does it cost to come visit?
At the Wisconsin Historical Museum on Capitol Square, it's a suggested donation of $5 per individual.
All right, very cool. So you've checked our website, you found the hours, you've come, you've made your donation to come in, and it's not just an evergreen exhibit, right? There's 4 floors here, so what else can people do when they come visit?
4 floors covering 12,000 plus years of human history in this state and in this region, and mentioned we're on Capitol Square. So when you get to the upper floors, we have the best views of our incredible, gorgeous state capitol from the warmth and of our upper floors. I always encourage people when they're coming downtown and all the decorations on Capitol Square. It really is a wonderful seasonal holiday experience. But when I always recommend people make their way to our front windows on the street side and have a look, while they're also taking in 4 floors of exhibitions.
Absolutely. Well, folks, that is a wrap for us today. And Joe, thank you so much. It is just so fascinating to listen to you. I could listen to you talk about this stuff all day long. And thank you, listeners, for joining us. Thank you to the Historical Society and the staff for collecting and preserving such fun, interesting history to share with the public. Now, just a couple reminders. You can see we're wearing our masks, so please do remember to bring your mask when you visit the Historical Museum. And remember to check our website to plan your visit. So starting tomorrow, opening Thursday through Saturday through December 30th, but also we are going to be closed on Thanksgiving holiday, Christmas Eve, Christmas Day. So again, just visit us online to plan out your visit. And if you haven't started following us on social media, make sure you do that today. And the hashtag #ExploreWisconsinHistory will won't just let you follow along with the Evergleaming exhibit, but you'll also learn so much about all of the different holiday events that we have planned across our historic sites and museums this year. So with that, thank you again, and
thank you so much for taking the time to come up here today, and please, Wisconsin's signature cocktail, the brandy old fashioned.
Don't mind if I do. Thank you, everybody.